Hello there to you folks. JB here with you live on WFLA Now, getting ready to launch live across all platforms, live a little bit early on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, and on YouTube Live. We've been informed that a 4:30 press conference will be taking place with an update from the U.S. Coast Guard regarding the situation that is unfolding in the North Atlantic. Titanic submarine, or excuse me, submersible company, OceanGate Expeditions has lost track of one of their submersibles, that of course being the Titan, which takes paying customers down to the wreckage of the Titanic, one of the most infamous shipwrecks ever. And as we had on our last live stream a couple of hours ago, myself and Josh Benson breaking down what we do know, a lot of what we don't know. We're expected to get some answers at the 4:30 press conference. That is 4:30 Eastern time. So that's in about 6 minutes from now. If you're getting here a little bit early, welcome into the chat. We'll be trying to get to as many questions and comments as possible over the course of the live stream, but really all focus is on the U.S. Coast Guard officials who are going to be giving this update. This is, again, expected to begin at 4:30 Eastern time. I'll be monitoring your comments here on YouTube Live, about to launch on Facebook Live and other platforms as well. You're watching here live on WFLA Now.
Is everybody set up here okay? Okay. Do you want to do a sound check or anything before? Yeah, that'd be good. Okay. Yep. Okay. We got a few minutes. So I just want to make sure you guys got it.
Again, JB here with you live in the Stream Center, folks. Getting underway shortly is this press conference from the U.S. Coast Guard. They have called this press conference after the disappearance of a Titanic submarine as part of the mission for, that is, OceanGate Expeditions. They do underwater missions to examine the wreckage of the Titanic, the famed, or infamous, I should say, rather, shipwreck. We're here live a little bit early, as we noted, and we're able to break a little bit as far as developing news on our previous stream. The civilian who is believed to be on the missing sub is Hamish Harding. He is a UK billionaire known for his work in the field of aviation. He has a company by the name of Action Aviation. It's a sales and operations company offering a range of services in the aviation industry. He is believed to be on the missing sub alongside personnel from OceanGate Expeditions. This update is going to be coming in the next couple of minutes. The U.S. Coast Guard calling this press conference for 4:30 Eastern time. At the end of the press conference, we'll be staying with you here live on stream to break down what we have learned, what remains unknown. We do not know if this is going to be a significant update, a minor update. We're, of course, following reports as they come in and as they develop, but really we're expected to get some significant piece of information, as is the reason why they called the press conference, at least something that we can go by, because as we noted earlier, there's been a tremendous amount of unknown regarding this story. So we're here live. We'll go full screen and stay here with you live over the course of the U.S. Coast Guard press conference on the disappearance of the OceanGate Expeditions tourism submarine.
So it'll just be Admiral Mauger. Me, myself, kind of introducing him. He'll take the questions on there, and then following, I'll kind of hang out afterwards, and just if you guys have any other questions, I don't know if I'll have them right away, but we'll at least be able to have them down and we can get back to you on this. What's that? Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Okay. Hey, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Chief Petty Officer Robert Simpson. I'm the Assistant Public Affairs Officer for the 1st Coast Guard District in Boston, Massachusetts. In just a minute, I'll introduce Rear Admiral John Mauger, Commander of the 1st Coast Guard District. I'm prepared to give you a brief update on the case going on 900 miles east of Cape Cod during the search for 5 submariners. We do ask, following his brief statement, we'll be able to take a few questions and answers. We do ask that we give everybody the opportunity to ask one question, and if we have it to go through, we can be able to ask further questions beyond that. We only have time today for about 10 minutes. So he has a brief statement on here, and at this time I'd like to introduce Admiral John Mauger.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Rear Admiral John Mauger. I'm the commander of the 1st Coast Guard District here in Boston, Massachusetts. And in this case, I am the lead for the Coast Guard search and rescue operations for the overdue submersible out near the wreck of the Titanic. Yesterday afternoon, we were notified by the operator of the submersible vessel that it was overdue, and it had 5 persons on board the submersible. So we're working very closely at this point to make sure that we're doing everything that we can do to locate the submersible and rescue those on board. Our thoughts are with the crew members and the families of those on board the submersible at this time, and we are doing everything that we can do to make sure that we can locate and rescue those on board. So after receiving the call, we reached out to the vessel Polar Prince and began a surface search looking for the submersible. At the same time, we launched a C-130 aircraft to conduct an aerial search, both visual and radar, of the scene. We've subsequently coordinated with the Canadian Coast Guard and Canadian Armed Forces to deploy additional assets to the scene. The Canadians have had a C-130 aircraft searching as well, in addition to also having a P-8 submarine search aircraft deploy as well, and put sonar buoys in the water in attempt to listen. The location of the search is approximately 900 miles east of Cape Cod in a water depth of roughly 13,000 feet. It is a remote area, and it is a challenge to conduct a search in that remote area, but we are deploying all available assets to make sure that we can locate the craft and rescue the people on board. Going into this evening, we will continue to fly aircraft and move additional vessels into the area. In this remote part of our search and rescue responsibility, Oftentimes we rely on commercial operators to be the first vessels on scene, and so we've been in touch with additional commercial vessels that are operating in the area, as well as initiating the movement of additional Canadian Coast Guard assets and U.S. Coast Guard surface asset into the area over the course of the next couple of days. Adding to the complexity of this case is the fact that this was a submersible vessel, and so we need to make sure that we're looking both on the surface for the vessel if it had surfaced back to the water, but had somehow lost communications with the vessel, and that's what the aircraft and the surface search vessel is allowing us to do right now. But we're also having to search in the water column, and we're doing that right now with the use of sonar buoys and sonar on the ship that's out there to listen for any sounds that we can detect in the water column. Over the course of the next couple days, we anticipate adding additional capability to conduct additional search in the water as those commercial assets arrive on scene. Again, our thoughts are with the families and the crew members on board this submersible, and we're working very closely with all U.S. and international partners to provide any capability that we can provide to search for the overdue vessel and rescue the crew members on board. At this point, we'll take questions.
There were reports that a submarine may be trapped in the wreckage of the Titanic. Is this even possible? And if that were the case, how much oxygen will these people undergo have?
So in terms of locating the overdue submersible, we have to make sure that we're looking on both the surface using aerial and surface vessels, but then expanding into underwater search as well. Right now our capability is limited to sonar buoys and listening for sounds, but you know, we're working very hard to increase the capability. We understand from the operator of the vessel that the vessel was designed with a 96-hour sustainment capability if there was an emergency on board. And so we're using that time, making the best use of every moment of that time to locate the vessel.
So can you talk about who was on board exactly, and is there somebody named Hamish Harding, a British explorer? Can you confirm that he's on board with the family closely enough?
At this point, I'm not in a position to confirm the identity of anybody on board the vessel. Out of respect for the families, we're you know, going through the notification process, and more updates will be forthcoming.
Sorry, I may be jumping to something here, but it seems like if that vessel is indeed sitting on the bottom, you know, the 96-hour window to reach it, that this is a race to get some sort of rescue vehicle down to it. Am I correct about that?
That's absolutely part of the overall planning for this search case. Right now we're focused on locating the vessel, but at the same time, if we find this vessel in the water, then we will have to effect some sort of rescue or coordinating, reaching out to different partners within the U.S. Navy, within the Canadian Armed Forces, and within private industry to understand what underwater rescue capability might be available.
Are there any vessels on the way there that could do that, get down there?
So at this moment, we're focused on the search and understanding the capabilities of the vessels that are deploying to the scene.
And your sonar measure as deep as 13,000 feet?
So the sonar capabilities within the sonar buoys and within the hull of the commercial vessel that is out there operating on site, those aren't Coast Guard sonars, they are capable of listening to a depth of 13,000 feet, as I understand it.
On some of the numbers here, you mentioned that there were 96 hours of oxygen. How much of the 96 hours do you believe may be taken if they are submerged? And also, what is the
So in terms of the square mileage of the search, I don't have that number right at this moment, but it includes both a surface area that we're looking at and a subsurface area. And so we'll get you the exact number for the square mileage of the search. In terms of the hours, we understood that that was 96 hours of rescue or emergency capability from the operator, and so we anticipate that there's somewhere between 70 to the full 96 hours available at this point.
Do you believe that the sub would be in a location near the Titanic? And if so, what are some of the challenges with sonar and a debris field that the Titanic had faced?
So it's certainly the purpose of the submarine was to, as I understand, the purpose of the submersible was to provide opportunity to visit the wreck site and explore the wreck site. So that's a possibility. Again, right now our focus is getting on as much capability into the area as we can and understanding that full capability of those assets that are being deployed. Our aerial assets that are being deployed have the capability to do both visual and radar searches, and the Canadians' asset had the ability to drop sonar buoys and listen, and so we're using all that information to improve our search capability.
And if it is a piece that is on the field, what does that look like as far as training and challenges, etc.?
So we're working through that right now, but what we're really focused on at the moment is really locating the vessel, which could either be in the surface or subsurface. And so we're bringing in technical expertise to understand both the dynamics of underwater search and underwater rescue operations.
So we know the families watching this and will be hoping that their loved ones will on that program. How hopeful are you?
So as search and rescue professionals, you know, we work very, very hard, and our crews take this personally. Our first thoughts are with the crew members and the families of those on board. And so we want to make sure that we have done absolutely everything that we can do to locate their family members and bring them home safe. And so they're first and foremost in our thoughts every moment of this search operation.
Sir, how common are these wrecks to the Titanic in general, and how dangerous are they even without an emergency taking place?
I don't have any details on how often folks visit the wreck site there at Titanic, nor any specific comments on the dangers involved. Certainly, every time ships go to sea, they encounter hazards and dangers, and so having properly prepared vessels, properly prepared crew members, and making sure that you practice emergency procedures, good practical advice for anybody that goes to sea.
What's happening specifically with the families of those people involved right now? Are you in contact with them? Is there a staging area for them? What's happening?
So at this point, I'm not going to discuss any information about the families and communications with the families, and so we'll provide that with future updates.
Any idea of the number of personnel searching? Is it dozens, hundreds?
So the Coast Guard has two C-130 aircraft. In addition to the command team that's working here, we have two C-130 aircraft deployed. The Canadians have a C-130 aircraft and a P-8 aircraft. We also have access to, and we'll launch this evening, a C-130 aircraft from the New York National Guard to make sure that we have sufficient air assets up there. On the surface, we have the commercial operator that's been on site, and we're bringing additional surface search assets into play, which will also bring in some subsurface search capability. Last question, please.
How many are like company employees, and how many are people who paid to be on?
I understand from the operator that there was one pilot or submersible commander operator on board, and that there were four mission specialists on board is the term that the operator uses for them. So five total. You have to ask the operator what that means. What we're focused on is finding those 5 people. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you for coming today. This does conclude this portion of the briefing. I can stay behind just to take any other questions down, and we can get back to you at a later time, and we'll be able to connect directly with you. I know you had the question about the square mileage area. Do you have a card with you? Okay. Were there any other additional questions? Yeah. So I'm not sure the exact time of when it started. As far as the communications on there was the 96 hours total on there. I'm not sure if that's the amount of time total that it can stay underwater, or if that starts at another time. We can clarify and get back to you on that. Right. Right. When did that clock start for the 96 hours? Yeah. Yeah, no, we don't have any information on the specifics of how the submersible is set up or for any kind of emergency. As far as we know, we don't have any of that. We don't know that yet. We do know that the aircraft that we have on scene that are search an area can search a large area within that period of time over assets. So if they're on the surface, we'd be able to see them with the crews.
Sir, do you know if the mission specialists, I think you may have taken on this submersible, have any training to prepare them in the event of something like this happening?
You mean for the persons on the submarine itself? I don't know. I don't know what the experience level is.
Is there any sense of whether the vessel's been damaged in any way? You guys know that yet?
No, we don't have any indication, anything like that. There's only just that the communication had been lost.
Do we know the last communication that the company had with them?
Not specifically like necessarily what was said on there, but it was about an hour and 45 minutes into their dive.
An hour and 45 minutes.
Was the last communication, the last recorded communication that they had. I don't have specifics on if it was stopped suddenly or if it was just a check-in period of time. They just didn't. But I believe that was Sunday. I think the dive started on Sunday. I believe.
Do we know why they lost communication? Do we know why yet? Why it's happened?
I believe seas right now are 3 to 6 feet with low visibility with fog. Is what? 3 to 6 foot seas, yeah.
3 to 6 foot considered.
For that far offshore is fairly normal. I mean, it does get much higher than that during storms.
Will there be more updates here? Or?
More than likely it will. I think just to keep this as kind of a central location. If we moved it down to the base, it would be much more difficult for you guys to get on. So if we do more briefings, we would likely probably put it here. And next time we'll have more advanced notice from when we did this. We just wanted to make sure we got something out as soon as we could today to try and meet that. But we'll send out more updates on the site, plus also Twitter, to keep not only updating information, but also the next briefing, which likely won't be till tomorrow.
JB here with you again on WFLA Now. Welcome in, folks, to our live stream. That was the latest from the U.S. Coast Guard on the Titanic tourism submersible that remains missing at this hour. We did get some key pieces of information that helps us get a better idea as to what has gone on in the last 36 hours out there in the North Atlantic, and additionally, what is currently going on in the North Atlantic over the most infamous shipwreck in the world, the shipwreck, of course, being the Titanic. I want to also point out I am going to be hopping off stream in the next 5 minutes as a result of another story in a different section of the Atlantic that is breaking at this hour. Tropical storm Brett has formed, a June tropical storm that is expected to reach hurricane strength. That happened in the last 3 to 4 minutes. So we're going to be doing an episode of Tracking the Tropics on WFLA.com, our other platforms, Facebook Live, if you want to join in on the conversation. So in the central Atlantic, we have a tropical storm that is strengthening to what is likely going to be hurricane status at some point in the coming days. And then now in the North Atlantic, we have the developing story of a submersible that remains missing. Here's the key things that we learned over the course of this press conference. They lost contact. This is big. They lost contact on Sunday afternoon. We originally had a report from the Associated Press and others that it was around 9:13 that the vessel was reported overdue. However, we now have a better understanding of the timeline, and I'll explain why this is really important. Sunday afternoon at some point is when they lost contact with the sub as it was descending down to the wreckage of the Titanic, and it was descending down for a period of about 45 minutes. 45 minutes into the dive is when they lost communication with the sub. That is it takes hours, as I understand it, in a period of roughly 4 hours to make it down. Again, that's based on our live stream from earlier when we were, of course, getting all of this information about this particular sub, the Titan sub, and how it accomplishes these expeditions from the surface above the Titanic all the way down to 13,000 feet below the surface of the Atlantic Ocean. So really less than a quarter of the dive's progress as far as descending downward, the surface crew on the Polar Prince losing contact with the sub. And that, of course, launched a search effort that began yesterday and now into today being June 19th, 2023. This has been a challenge. It's been a remote area. According to the press conference, they have sonar buoys that are being deployed to help listen. That's the key thing that they are using in this search effort. They are trying to listen in the ocean for anything that points them in the right direction of the Titan sub. They are focused on the search right now. As far as locating the sub, they will then talk about how they recover the sub in the, right now, the top priority for them, according to the U.S. Coast Guard, is just locating where the sub is. And at that point, once they locate it, they'll determine how to best proceed with rescue and recovery efforts. It's really important to note as well, they have a 96-hour sustainment capability should a emergency occur. And this is why the timeline of Sunday afternoon is so key. Because if the sustainment capabilities of the vessel are intact, I'm talking about oxygen supply, I'm talking about power. It's cold. It's cold in the North Atlantic when you're at the surface. Imagine how it is thousands of feet below the surface. It's going to be extremely cold. So you need power, and you're going to need oxygen to survive down there. And so 96 hours is the sustainment capability of the sub. And that 96-hour clock began Sunday afternoon. That means that this search has until Thursday afternoon, approximately Thursday afternoon, should the sustainment capability of the vessel be intact, until Thursday afternoon to perform a rescue of the 5 people that are on board the sub. It has been widely reported that Hamish Harding, a UK billionaire, is the person aboard the vessel who is paid to be on the vessel, a part of this expedition mission, and part of a crew of then 4 other what they call mission specialists. So it's Hamish Harding and 4 personnel with Ocean Gate Expeditions that are in this. And the hope is that they are found alive and that just something went wrong from a communication standpoint on the way down. But what happened 45 minutes into the dive remains unknown. I have another about 3 minutes. I'll answer as many questions. We'll go kind of rapid fire. If you use hashtag KJB, I can answer as many questions here as possible. Full Circle Florida says, He said 1 hour and 45 minutes after the dive. I heard 45 minutes. Apologies if I misheard. Everybody jump in. Was it 1 hour and 45 minutes or 45 minutes into the dive? Let's go back to our YouTube comment section here. Yeah, 13,000 feet down, roughly. So 1 hour and 45 minutes. I thought I heard 45 minutes, so apologies. So 1 hour, 45 minutes into the dive. And you have to wonder, too, and again, apologies, just a mistake. You have to wonder, too, approximately how far down are you getting after an hour and 45 minutes? Hamish Harding on his social media accounts did talk about there being a very specific window when they would be able to launch, or I should rather say descend, if you will. And that was because of challenging weather conditions. Now, whether those challenging weather conditions played any factor in this, I guess I'm sure we'll find out more as the story continues to develop. However, really concerning that we find ourselves with this update and nothing of note other than, of course, a massive all hands on deck approach to finding the crew of the Titan submersible safe and sound. Man, this is a great question, Bill. How many pounds of pressure? That's a great question for those on Twitter. I'm a certified diver, but I have never been anywhere beyond. I think the depth that I have dived in scuba gear, I think my max depth is somewhere in the neighborhood of 110 to 120 feet. I think it's closer to 110 feet. We're talking about thousands of feet underwater, and I dive in Florida where the waters are warm, and you don't really need a wetsuit, or even you don't need a dry suit, wetsuit. You can just dive with your scuba gear, just because the waters down here are so warm. So I not only just the pounds of pressure, but also too, if the sustainment capabilities are compromised, how cold it is down there and how many pounds of pressure at that depth. There's a lot of different factors that would be that would have to be considered as far as and also too, just the state in which the crew are in presently. No, it's not a hurricane yet. Tropical storm Brett has formed, but that is way far south in the Atlantic, nowhere near the Titanic wreckage site, nowhere close. So while really the two biggest stories of the day, if you will, for us are all developing in the Atlantic, one is in the central Atlantic, and one is in the North Atlantic. These two are not going to intersect at all. There is expected to be some kind of a northerly turn with the track of Tropical Storm Brett over the course of the coming week. However, how drastic that turn is, and also too, it would take a very long time, more than a week, for it to reach that section. Tropical storms and hurricanes, especially as they dissipate and break apart, they're the aftermath of those storms, what remains, can reach the northern Atlantic, but it would be a very long time before it actually approached that area of the ocean. Folks, I have to get off stream, unfortunately, because we have to get on Tracking the Tropics with the update from the National Hurricane Center. I would stay on stream with you longer, but we got to get right back on stream on WFLA.com, the WFLA app, and the WFLA Facebook page. Those three places for, again, another developing story. Tropical Storm Brett has formed. We have the newest track and spaghetti models. We have all the latest models, if you will, from the National Hurricane Center. And so that is coming your way in just a few minutes on, one more time, WFLA.com, the WFLA app and the WFLA Facebook page. We'll be answering your questions with meteorologist Rebecca Barry. We're going to be doing everything that we can to get you the very latest information on Tropical Storm Brett. Apologies for not being able to stay on stream longer, but we will be back on stream on Tracking the Tropics. Stand by.